Last time we stabilised the engine movement by putting together this front torque mount and fired the engine up for the first time since reworking the wiring. Now it's time to make a start on the exhaust. So I think now it's time to start looking at the exhaust.
That's what I just said.
Long-time viewers of the channel have already seen this particular part, which is a pattern part that I got off eBay. Comes with a catalytic converter and basically the whole downpipe for a Mark 1 TT. Now obviously it goes without saying that this thing is not going to fit in my application. The way that the engine is positioned in like a Mark 4 platform bay is there's actually quite a lot of room behind the back of the engine, so this takes quite a shallow angle towards the back of the car. The Micra doesn't give me that at all, so I cannot use this in its entirety, but we knew this going into it, so there's no surprises there. So what we're going to have to do is kind of fabricate our own exhaust. Now what I was thinking of doing was just using this whole part and then cutting it up and changing it, and I might use a few bits off of this, but the bit I'm mostly interested in is the catalytic converter back here and the O2 sensor bungs that are also here as well. What we're going to do is we're going to use the original collector, which is this part here. This is the factory one. It was attached to the engine when I got it, and then this little guy was attached to the end of it like that. Maybe there's a bit of pipe between it, I can't remember. But we're going to reuse this because this is in pretty good condition and it's the right size. Yes, there is one here, but given the quality of the rest of the exhaust, I think I'd rather use the OEM one, which is a little bit more stout. If something goes wrong with this, then we've still got this one. I've also purchased a pre-formed bend and also a length of pipe back here. And with all of these parts, we're going to be able to fashion something. We're probably going to have to cut this up into lots of little sections so that we can get it to sort of manipulate it around where it needs to go. And then we've also got a genuine Bosch wideband O2 sensor. This is the only O2 sensor that we actually need, and it's the one that goes before the cat. There is also an additional sensor you can plug in, which we don't have at the moment, and I think I'm probably going to get coded out when we get the car mapped. But for the time being, that's the one we need, so that's the one we're going to use. So I know what people are going to be saying. This is mild steel, it's 2-inch, it's not exactly an upgrade over stock, and that's fine. That's exactly what I want. I don't want to upgrade over stock, not at this stage. Remember, we are in make it work phase, not make it nice phase. In make it work phase, we get it working, we get an exhaust that does the job of getting gases out of the engine bay, out the back of the car, so I don't gas myself every time I turn it on, and to stop it sounding like a tractor. That's the only purpose of this, and it just needs to get through an MOT. Once we've got that done and we know what sort of shape we can get away with and what size we can get away with, like we will know if there's room for a 3-inch system, for example, because we will have already fit this 2-inch system. Once that's done, then we can look at getting one made up out of stainless steel with all nicely TIG welded and all that stuff. So this is going to be MIG welded, there's going to be no back purging or anything like that. It's not going to be the best exhaust, and to be honest, I've already had a go at welding some of this stuff, and some of it went okay and some of it not so much. I think I have my welder dialed in with the settings that I think work. It isn't going to result in me blowing holes in everything, but let's just see how far we get. We're going to start off by just taking this collector. I'm going to make a little section that comes off of there that goes into this first. And the way I'm going to build it is I'm not just going to tack everything together and then weld the whole thing out, because I don't have enough confidence in my own ability to, first of all, not warp the thing, but two, not blow a hole in it to the point where I have to start again because I've already tacked it all together. So I'll do one join, make sure it fits, weld it all out, and then carry on as I go along. So this is what we have so far. Not exactly the prettiest welds, but you know, you probably know me by now, I'm not a fabricator by any kind of profession, so this is my first time actually doing this kind of thing. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you've got nice things to say about it and constructive things to say, but here it is. Now this is just the downpipe section that goes straight off the back of the turbo down to underneath the car, so it clears the engine bay. I really wanted to get the cat converter attached to this side of the pipe. Unfortunately, because of the anti-roll bar, it would make it impossible for me to fit that in one section. If we compare this with the factory replacement, this pattern part over here, you can see just how different the shape is. This one has to make quite a significant bend to kind of go straight downwards and then clear the bottom of the bulkhead and then out the back of the car. This one is almost a straight line. A few little bends in there, but nowhere near what this is. Now, I'm not really sure how much this is going to affect the sound. Without the exhaust, it sounds like an absolute tractor. This probably isn't going to do an awful lot to change that, but I'm kind of curious to see what it sounds like. So let's get it installed and fire it up. And there it is installed. I wish I could show you installing it, but there is so little room under here that I can't even move my arms properly, let alone get a camera and lights and everything. So we just got it bolted in with temporary hardware for now. I need to replace the studs, get some proper ones, because these are a bit mangled. But Flexi comes down here. It comes quite close to the steering rack, but there's not really much we can do about that. And then it does a almost 90. I think it's actually a little bit less, about 85 degrees off of there, and then it just goes straight down there and aims for this gap between the anti-roll bar and the bottom of the exhaust tunnel. So we need to make something that comes off of there. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about heat, but we're going to put some wrap on this so that it doesn't, it keeps all the heat inside the pipe and hopefully won't affect any of this. We can use heat shields and things like that as well, but it's just very tight back here. I think in an ideal world, if I was to do this again, I'd probably make that, you can't see where my finger is, this initial angle. I think I'd probably make this come off a little bit more aggressively so that it sort of sticks out more like this. And that would probably give me a little bit more clearance. Let's turn it on, see how it sounds. So if you can hear the rain, but not really much I can do about that. Welcome to Britain. I'm going to put some ear defenders on this time. Ready? Alright, so it still sounds exactly like a tractor, but that's absolutely expected. I mean, it still has no resonators, no silencers, nothing. It's just straight off the back of the turbo into nothing. So it definitely does sound different. It definitely sounds not quite as, what's the word I'm looking for? Crap. We're going to add more to it and it's going to sound a little bit less antisocial. So yeah, now all I need to do is just order some more bits and pieces. I'm going to need to get the cat converter installed, and yeah, then we should be able to actually run this thing without deafening ourselves. But before we do any of that, first I want to tick another item off the list, and that's the throttle pedal. Now, I've already made some progress on physically mounting the pedal itself, but because all of the wiring comes into the cabin through the passenger side, there isn't a way to connect it electrically, not until I extend the wires like I'm doing here, making sure to check continuity on all the pins before routing the extended harness up and over the dashboard, then down towards the pedal. Now we can continue on with the exhaust. Now you'll notice that I've removed the anti-roll bar, and the reason I've done that is because just getting that section around that part of the anti-roll bar was really difficult. It's handy to keep it in place because you need to know if it's going to hit or not, but once you know it's not going to hit and you've marked everything, just trying to align everything and see where things are going to go is really difficult with it in the way. So it's come off and it will go back on shortly. So I've taken it off for now. It needs a bit of a clean up and some new bushings anyway, so there it is. If you ever knew someone at school who used to interrupt the maths lesson and ask, when are we going to use this in real life? It's time to smack that kid in the throat because we're going to use it now. So basically the problem is this, right? Downpipe is coming out at a bit of a weird angle because it's not central to the engine bay, and also there's a cross member in the way. So in order to get it to line up with the catalytic converter, we need to do a little bit of maths. So what I've done is I've taken this angle finder here and I've worked out, just by lining it up, that if you imagine drawing a line right down the center of the car, the catalytic converter is parallel with the car, but the exhaust comes out at, actually it's probably more accurate like this. So if this is the front of the car where I'm pointing, this is the cat here, the downpipe is here, coming out at this angle. That angle is about 162 degrees. There's 180 degrees in a straight line. If you want to make that 180 degrees up, you just need to make sure that the two angles or the three angles add up to 180 degrees. So you can have two 90s, you can have a 135 and a 45, for example. So in a straight line, we've got 180 degrees, but we're not in a straight line. So because we've got that 162 degrees and not 180, we're not doing our maths against 0 degrees and 180 degrees in a straight line. We're doing it between 0 degrees and 162 degrees, which is somewhere around here on this chart I made. I made a 45 degree cut that's coming straight off of the catalytic converter. So we take 45 degrees away from 162, that leaves us with 117 degrees. So as long as we've got two bits of pipe, one of them is 45 degrees and the other one is 117 degrees, we know that it's going to add up to that 162 degrees that we need. So I started off with one of these pre-bent mandrel bends and I made a few cuts, one on that side, one on that side. If you're wondering what this chart is here, then this is what I use to make sure that I'm cutting the mandrel bend correctly. So a mandrel bend, in fact cutting any bend, you've got to be very careful. If I knew that I wanted to cut, say, a 45 degree angle off of this, like I did here, in order to know that that is a 45 degrees and that it's perpendicular to this imaginary center, which I've actually drawn here, you've got to make sure that you've got to make sure you use something like this so that you don't end up with a slightly oval hole, right? If I was to cut that even slightly off axis, this would end up being an oval and it wouldn't like match up with anything. So I basically put that there, line it up, and then I draw my line across there so it lines up. In this case, when I needed a 45, 90 plus 45 is 135. So when we put these together like this, if I put them end on end like that, they actually make up that angle. This is parallel to this section, and then this side of the angle finder is parallel to this section. So we know that with these two angles together, we've made up our 162 degrees that we need. We know this is going to work. Now it doesn't actually go on the car like this. The way I've done it is this part goes onto the downpipe, and then this part it will need shortening, but it will kind of go there like that. So it makes a bit of an S, which is the shape that we want. So all I need to do now is just weld this onto the downpipe and then go from there. Alright, so this is now ready to weld up. Now there is one thing, I still have the anti-roll bar removed and I need to keep it removed. I can't remove this section back with the anti-roll bar in the way. It will come out with a bit of force, but it's just too much of a weird shape to come out in one go. In the meantime, I'm just going to drop the anti-roll bar if I need to remove the exhaust, but I realise that's an imperfect solution. So before I get too far ahead of myself and start welding this up to make it one piece, I need to first look at the oxygen sensor. So here's the O2 sensor. This is a wideband sensor with 6 pins. which is the one that goes before the cat, not after it. And this is a section of the OEM style exhaust for a Mark IV platform, and the O2 sensor bung is not too far after this flexi. This section where I've cut is actually where the catalytic converter would be, so it's just before that. So as long as the distance between the O2 sensor and the flange on my downpipe is roughly the same as it is on this one, I think we should be good. So I think now it's a question of where on my downpipe do we put the sensor. In the Mark IV platform, the O2 sensor would be poking upwards towards the bulkhead. I have less than 2 fingers worth of space between the steering rack bushing and the downpipe, so that's just not going to happen. So if you can hear banging, that's the wind outside banging on the door. I don't think going down on the bottom is a good idea, although there probably wouldn't be too bad. It's not going to get in the way of anything. Alternatively, I can put it coming out the side there. That's still going to be relatively easy to get to. Could potentially put it on this side, but I still don't know if I'm going to use this bushing, this factory engine mount for a rear torque mount, but that would probably be another good place to put it, but I can't put it there if that's in the way. So my favourites at the moment are there, which I don't think is going to cause any problems with the drive shafts. The drive shaft is just off of frame, you can't even see it, and that's on full droop, so you're not going to have any problems with it like that. So I think I might put it there. Actually, I think I've changed my mind. Even though I know it's not going to get in the way of the drive shaft, I do know that if I needed to remove the drive shaft, this is going to be in the way, right? I'm going to have to wiggle it around this sensor, and I don't want to risk damaging it. So I think we're going to go on this side like that. So here's the 2 downpipes together. We can see that on this one here, I took a tape measure and I measured the distance between the flange and the O2 sensor, and it was about 33 centimeters. If I was to do that same for this downpipe, that would put the O2 sensor location right there. And of course it's directly on the weld. So I'm going to drill a hole, and I've got where is it? Got a sensor bung here. This was already a little bit too long, it's just a universal one that fits the thread. So I've cut it in half so that it doesn't protrude too much, and we'll just get that in place. O2 sensor's now installed and the wiring comes up here. So I just need to connect these 2 together, and that's the O2 sensor all wired in. I'm not 100% sold on this wiring configuration I've got. I kind of got it going over the top of the bulkhead down towards the other side. In the Mark IV platform, I believe this wire just goes down the side here, and then the O2 sensor is just down there. So what I think I might do is just see if I can play around with the wiring a bit, but that's all connected now. So I can take the O2 sensor pretty much off the list for now. So the next thing I've got to do is I've got to sort out a hanger so that we can actually support everything from underneath. So at the moment we've just got the cat supported by these jacks, and I've been keeping it there just to keep it aligned, and I know where I'm pointing my downpipe to. I still haven't welded it up yet, but I figured it might be a good idea to just see where this rod is going to go. We've got the original factory rubber hangers there. If I just pop that through, I don't know about you, but that just seems a little bit too convenient. Now what I suspect is that once we take the stands out of the equation, these are probably going to drop down a little bit. These actually have quite a decent amount of stretch to them, so this might drop down a little bit. So we might still need to put a joggle in there just to make it fit, but that's okay. So let's see what we can put together. So it would appear that actually it is that convenient. I just put this bar straight through there and the cat sits directly on there, right in that little gooch between the two sections there. So I can weld that to there and then that will support it. But I'm not entirely sure whether if I put the weight of the rest of the exhaust, whether that's going to pull this down and actually cause it to sag. So what I'm going to do, or what I've already done, is I've started building the rest of the midsection. It's going all the way back there. It's not meant to point down like that. It's meant to go in that direction. So I built that so I can line it all up on the end there, and I put a flange in here so we can easily remove the midsection. I'm trying to mimic the original Micra's exhaust. So if you don't know K11s, then the exhaust actually comes out the front of the engine. There's a catalytic converter in the manifold. It comes past this longitudinal brace, and then there's a second catalytic converter roughly in the same position as this one, maybe a little bit further back. And then there's a flange somewhere around here, and I don't know whereabouts it is on the original one, but it would be nice if it was around here, because it means then I could potentially put on like an aftermarket exhaust which is built by someone that knows what they're doing. But in the meantime, what I've done is I've just put a flange here so we can at least move the centre section away from the downpipe and the cat. So I just need to weld that in place. But before I do that, I've put that angle on the end, that's a 90 degree, and then I can use a spirit level to make sure that that section going off away from us is actually level before I tack this in place, so that I know that it's not going to be all droopy. So we've got this all welded up now. That's now permanently connected to there, and we've also welded up the flange, so that's all good. So at the moment, this whole assembly bolted up to the manifold is resting entirely on that bar. There is a jack stand here, but it's not actually supporting any weight. Same with that one over there, there is a gap. And it has definitely dropped by a couple of degrees. You can probably see there just how much it's dropped by. And that's basically because what's happened is what we expected to happen, is that there's some flex in the rubber, because that's what rubber does. So if I lift it up to where it's supposed to be, it's fine, and then you can see that it is definitely flexing. So I don't think it's a problem with these stretching. I think that's just what they're designed to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a little bend in this rod, and that will compensate for that drop. So I'll do that until the exhaust sits about level, and then I'll weld it in place. Right, so after getting to a certain point with the rear section, I decided to make a purchase. So what you're looking at is a custom 2.5-inch stainless steel system from GizFab. I picked this one up second hand. So the reason I've purchased this, and the reason why I'm fitting this and not carrying on with my own, is because this section down here is actually quite simple to do. It's just a 90 and then another 90, and then it starts to get a bit tricky when we get to here. And whilst it's not impossible for me to do, because I did do the downpipe after all, the amount of time and effort that I have to put into getting this all to fit properly, by the end of it, I'd have a 2-inch mild steel system, which is going to be nowhere near as good as what I actually want it to be. So I figured this came up for a pretty good price, so I decided to pull the trigger. Yeah, so it's a pretty good system. It's clearly used. It's had some use, which is absolutely fine. And I have to say, this thing is really well built. The welds are really nice on it. We also have reinforcements on the hangers as well, so you're not just hanging off of one part of the can. It's actually held up in 2 places on each hanger, which is really good for rigidity and longevity, so I'm really happy with that. Now, one thing to consider, and I'm sure that some people have already figured this out, is that we've got the back of the system right there, and if we follow this back, it goes to this resonator, and where this flange is, it's going to be a bit too long. So the downpipe I've made, where it goes on the cart, the downpipe would actually come up to about here, roughly. So this system is not going to fit up with my downpipe. And that's just simply because I didn't know that I was going to do this. I was going to put this system on at the point that I was building the downpipe. But it's okay because this system's actually pretty cool. So you've got this resonator here, and then you've got this extension pipe here. And this is all just slip jointed together. So to put it simply, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this section here. But first, I need to get rid of some of these tack welds. The person who had this before me decided to go for the belts and braces approach and actually just tack weld a few places here and here. I believe you should just be able to use clamps instead of having to use a tack weld, but I'm just going to zip those off, and we'll get the system apart and then we'll fit it into the car. Right, you're going to have to take my word for this, but I was fitting this system up. I went from the back all the way to the front and I was going to see where it lines up with the downpipe that I've made. Apparently it lines up exactly where I built the downpipe to. So I guess the exhaust is finished. It still needs a couple of clamps. It needs one there, but that is fully inserted, and basically that now works. This is a 2-inch system going into a 2.5, so that's fine. So there's no restriction by doing what I've done there, by just sticking the flange straight onto that one. So I guess we'll just see how it sounds. I'm going to try it at the start. It's going to sound a bit crap because there's almost certainly a couple of leaks in the system, some bad welds and things I need to tidy up. So let's see how it goes. Ready? What have I forgotten to plug in? Hold on.
Seems like you're low on fuel.
2 cents for, yeah, that's that. Okay. Hold this out, I'll give it a few blips.
Thanks for choking me.
I can actually hear the turbo spool up a little bit.
Yeah,
I
can too.
I don't know how, because the wastegate's open. Alright, so now that we've got the downpipe pretty much complete, we just need to make sure that it's free of any leaks. So we're going to do a quick leak test. I've already shone a light down there to see if there's any pinholes, but I can definitely hear some leaking coming through from somewhere around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some blanking plates that go on each end of the downpipe, and then we'll be able to stick some air in there and we'll see if the pressure drops. And then we'll also be able to see if any one of my welds has got any holes in it. Just by spraying some water on there. Now we already have O2 sensors installed in the correct places. This one is the wideband O2 sensor that is supposed to be on the car. This one here is actually from the Micra. Its only job at the moment is just to plug that up. So it's not actually plugged into anything, nor can it plug into anything, it's the wrong plug. So all I've done to make the blanking plates is I've taken some sheet steel, cut them to roughly the right size that fits over the hole, put the mounting holes in, then I take some neoprene sheet, cut it to the same size with the same holes, and then stick a tyre valve in there as well so we can fill it with air. So let's get this thing fitted and we'll see how this thing holds air. I can already hear air coming out of this thing. Right in the gooches. Alright, so it's become pretty clear after that little exercise that there is not a single weld on this entire thing that doesn't have some hole in it somewhere. I think maybe the exception is probably one of the ones up here, which is one of the first ones I did. It seems I've gotten progressively worse as I've gone along. So there's a couple of really awkward ones, like on each side of the gooch between these two sections here. Need to get some weld in there. This flange on the end didn't weld very well, and that's because I had my settings for the welder configured for thin tube, but not for thick flange. So that was bound to happen. I got one here on the O2 sensor on the other side. And other than that, it's just a few little pin pricks I need to just quickly sort out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take all this off, I'm going to get the welder out and we'll fix everything up and then we'll go again. Right, I've been having an absolute nightmare with this thing. It seems to me that every time I go through and weld up a hole, I check it again and a new hole is formed around where I've welded, and it's just gotten to the point where I've been chasing these for the last couple of hours now. Turning this around, going all the way around, checking again, trying to put air in it, finding a new hole next to the weld I've just done. I grind it smooth to see if I can see where the hole is, and even though it looks completely smooth, I'll show you actually, watch this. So I'm going to stick some water on here, right? And I'm going to stick some air in it. And I've been chasing this for ages. I even blew a hole. The reason why this is all here is because I blew a hole through it trying to chase a hole around. And just to reiterate what's going on, say there's a hole there, right? On a joint. I stick a little tack weld on there, and then around the edge of the tack weld, another hole forms. So I do the spray test and then just little bubbles form around the tack weld. I've tried different settings on the welder. Anyway, back to this. This is just the section I've been working on here, right? And it's gotten to the point where I think I've ruined it. Like the very last hurdle where I'm just finishing up a few bits and pieces, and I've basically ruined it. Like I'm realizing that there is a serious deficit in my ability. I know I just talked about how horrible this welder is to use, but I can't in good conscience blame that thing for my inability to do this. I don't want to blame my tools, basically, is what I'm saying. However, this thing is not helping me. It's probably partly just my bad technique, and it's maybe partly the welder as well. I don't know. Either way, I'm stuck, like genuinely stuck. My next step after this was to get some heat wrap, and I was going to do this section all the way down here up to the cat, and then it was basically going to be done. But I can't put heat wrap on an exhaust that's like Swiss cheese. If I haven't distorted this thing with all the welding I've done on it, I will be very surprised. And this bit down here has really been causing me problems, because this is where these two sections, I think these are both cats. I don't know how it works on the 180T, but there's actually material in here. I thought it was just this, but there's something in here as well. Anyway, you saw earlier where I cut this off because I wanted to weld it on straight, because where I got it from, BM Catalysts, I think, made the exhaust. They didn't weld anything on straight. Like, the welds were fine, but it just wasn't welded on straight, and it bothered me. And it was just affecting how I was going to line everything up. So I cut it down the middle and I welded it back on straight, and I thought it was okay. But because there's a flange here, there's a bit in there that I've not been able to get the welder in. And despite my best efforts, I just can't get rid of the gaps. No matter what I do, there's always a hole there. So I think what I'm going to do is, I've got a ton of footage that I've recorded. It's not how I wanted to end this, because I wanted to actually have something working. We got to hear the car running. I either need to come and get someone to do this for me, or I just have to start this again. But I think, in my opinion, I have ruined this. Anyway, I think I'm just in a bit of a bad mood, because I have basically wasted a day on this thing. A day that I don't really have. And I really want to get the next video out ASAP. And I really wanted this to be in that video. Really wanted it to be all wrapped up and ready to go. So yeah, ending on a bit of a bad note because I'm having a tantrum because of the welder. So I'm kind of toying with the idea of starting again with this. I've already got the GizFab system at the back. That thing is absolutely fine. It's been welded by someone who actually knows what they're doing and actually has a decent skill set. So thanks, Eden, for actually building decent products, and like me, who doesn't even know how to use a simple MIG machine. But it doesn't matter, because I can still get everything else done in the meantime. I can still get the cooling system plugged in. I can still get the boost piping all done. I've got other things to be getting on with, is what I'm saying. Downpipe, I can just do whenever. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. So sorry, it's a bit of a long rant. I don't normally do this. I actually do record a lot of these little rants of me doing things, but then I cut them out of the video because I know that most people don't want to listen to me whinge. Anyway, do the usual things with the video. If you've got any ideas on what I can do, then leave me a comment. Any insight from people that know what they're doing, please let me know. If anyone can offer some help or assistance in some way, then I'm open to that too. For everyone else, just watching the video, liking and subscribing is more than helpful to me. So if you haven't done that, please do, because it does help me out. We'll be getting on with other things, don't worry. This is just going to go on the back burner for a little bit until I figure out what I'm doing. I'm repeating myself. Anyway, bye.